Have you ever wondered how much a typical Rwandan makes here in Rwanda? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how much a typical Rwandan job pays. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how much money I have made in my first year of working here in Rwanda. Don't go anywhere. Africa! Africa! Welcome back, my Rwanda people. Thank you again for joining me on this YouTube channel. As you can see, I've changed up my hair a bit to attract more subscribers. So please subscribe and give this video a like. This hair was extremely painful and expensive. Hope it was worth it. No, the real reason I got this new haircut actually is because I have learned to appreciate my hair that I still got on my head. You know, at a certain age, it does not come automatically anymore. When my older brother was about my age, he's starting to get bolder and bolder out of nowhere. Ever since, I've been fearful that I'm going to be losing my hair sometime soon as well. Luckily, it is still here and I plan to enjoy it to the end of it. Alright, let's get into the video. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how much people make here in Rwanda. In order to understand this, you need to first understand these first three things. First, you need to understand that this paper money, the Rwandan franc, is something very new and very actually un-Rwandan-like that was imposed by the colonizers about a century ago. Before the German and the Belgians came to invade Rwanda, Rwandans used to exchange goods and services perfectly fine. But we have learned to take over these currencies starting in the 60s, and now it is part of the Rwandan culture. So working for purely money is some kind of a new concept here in Rwanda. It has not always been there. Secondly, there's a huge informal sector here in Rwanda that does not involve a lot of money exchange. For example, many Rwandan families still have land on which they plow their own food and also for exchange for other services like money or other crops. So it is possible for someone to work there year in, year out without ever getting a paycheck, but they'll be paid in food. Also, it is very common to borrow out some of your agricultural land to a neighbor or someone in the village for them to work on the land in exchange for like a percentage of the crops that have been grown over there. And other people like to use their land to build and rent out houses and thus make a living from it. So there are still many non-monetary ways that Rwandans can get paid in. Thirdly, the culture and the infrastructure of working and saving digital money is still in its infancy right here in Rwanda. Only about 16% of the population actually has a bank account, and I would say about 25% of them uses mobile money, which is digital money on your phone. Therefore, many Rwandans don't like to save their money digitally. They like to use other things such as buying more land or investing into cattle or expensive things like cars or machinery. This is mostly the case outside of Kigali, which the majority of Rwandans live in, about 80%. In Kigali, the most developed city of Rwanda, people need and use a lot more cash. Things are generally more expensive and also more foreign. Thus, everything revolves around the paper. So, with that said, how much does a typical Rwandan make here with a typical Rwandan job? To calculate this, I'm going to use two things. First is a homegrown system called ubudehe, and secondly is stories that I've heard from people who are living and working here in Rwanda. What is ubudehe, you ask? Let me explain. About 20 years ago, the government implemented a strategy system to reduce the poverty in the country. Back then, it was extremely high. But in order to do so, they first needed to know how much poverty there was. So they introduced ubudehe. Ubudehe is a categorization mechanism to determine the socio-economic status of the population of Rwanda. In other words, it's a way of dividing Rwandan residents into different socio-economic boxes, ranking from poor to rich. Currently, there are four categories where every Rwandan resident falls into. The first category, which is about 16% of the population, is for the people who are miserably poor. These are people with no means of earning their own money, they do not own their own land, and they cannot rent houses and can barely afford food on the table. The second category, which is about 30% of the population, is also considered poor, but have some kind of part-time jobs where they earn little money. They own cheap houses or are able to afford rent. The third and biggest category is often considered as the middle class. It is about 45% of the Rwandan population, and these people do not need government assistance to survive. The key word here is survive. This includes farmers, professionals, low-ranking government officials, and small business owners. And the fourth and last category, which is the smallest one, consisting of about 9% of the Rwandan population, is of the wealthiest members of our Rwandan society. These people are usually financially independent and they do not depend on the government to live. These are usually high-ranking government officials, big business owners, expats, diaspora, and so forth. Over the years, these categories have evolved into becoming the basis for every government delivery service, such as giving cows, free health care, awarding government scholarships, and other vital services in the Rwandan community. However, this current system in its current form is rather incomplete, and it has received a lot of criticism from many Rwandans all over the country. The main one being that many Rwandans feel like they have been put in the wrong category, therefore missing out on many government services such as free healthcare. Luckily, the government recently announced a new and improved categorization system, which will be implemented soon in the beginning of next year. This new categorization system will help to better categorize Rwandans according to their true socio-economic status. This new categorization system is categorized by 5 letters, A through E. It uses household income and it takes land possession into account. It is through this new system that I'm able to estimate what Rwandans make on average every month. Let's have a look. Category A consists of households that are considered well-off, aka rich. These are households with a total combined income of more than 600,000 Rwandan francs a month. This is about $600 a month. And they own over 10 hectares of land in rural areas or more than 1 hectare of land in urban areas. Category B comprises of households that earn between 65,000 Rwandan francs to 600,000 Rwandan francs, which is roughly around $66 to $610. They own land between 1 to 10 acres in rural areas or between 300 square meters and 1 hectare in urban areas. Category C households have a total income of between 45,000 Rwandan francs to 65,000 Rwandan francs, roughly $46 to $66. They own land ranking from a half a hectare to 1 hectare in rural areas or 100 square meters to 300 square meters in urban areas. Category D households earn less than 45,000 a month, which is less than $46. They own land that is less than half a square in rural areas and less than 100 square meters in urban areas. Category E is a special category comprising of people who are unable to work as a result of age, major disability, incurable diseases, and they do not own assets or have other sources of livelihoods. You can find the full article where I got this information linked below. These new categories might change a bit when they get implemented next year in February, but it is clear that I've already done the groundwork to calculate the income capacity of Rwandans, which I'm using for this video. And plus, this income capacity of Rwandans will not change anytime soon within the coming few years. So based on these numbers and from stories that I've heard from actual people who are living and working here in Rwanda, both expats and local Rwandans, I'm going to give you my best estimation of what a typical Rwandan job makes here in Rwanda. Take it with a grain of salt. This is just based on my own opinion and observations. Alright, let's get started. A in-house living worker, which we like to call here umukozi, or a guard, usually gets paid less than 50,000 francs a month. That's about $52 a month. A non-skilled job, such as a waitress, cleaner, construction worker, usually pays between 50 to 100,000 francs, which is around $52 to $102 a month. A regular full-time job, such as sales agent, bank teller, usually pays between 100 to 250,000 Rwandan francs, which is around $102 to $250 a month. A skilled or experienced job, such as an accountant, nurse, branch managers, usually pays between 200 to 400,000 Rwandan francs, which is around $205 to $409. This is usually also what these moto guys make, the ones who are driving motos, but they work ridiculous amount of hours. Low-ranking government officials, bigger managers, small business owners usually make between 400 to 600,000 Rwandan francs. That is about $409 to $613 a month. And big business owners and big government officials and ministers, NGO people who are working for the NGOs or other big foreign companies usually make between 600 to 2 million Rwandan francs. That is around $613 to $2,000. If you're making more than $2,000 a month, you're probably not working for a Rwandan-based company. It is important to remember that numbers alone do not tell the full stories. The living standard in Rwanda is relatively cheap compared to Western countries. Therefore, you do not need a lot of money to live here. However, on the other side, a large part of the Rwandan population, about 1/3, makes less than $65 a month. Even if you take into account the cheap Rwandan living standard, land ownership, it means that millions of Rwandans still live in pure poverty. And this includes many of my own family members, which always breaks my heart when I witness this. What can we do about this? So, how much money do I earn? Last year, I moved to Rwanda to start my own business, a gym, right here in Kigali. My earnings have been okay, but they've been fluctuating a lot, as can be expected of any starting businesses. But as of today, the gyms have been closed for 8 months and going on now here in Rwanda, and there's no sign of them opening up anytime soon. Because I started my business from scratch, it took a very long time before I started to see any money at all. I gave a lot of free training and merchandise to attract clients. It took me about 6 months before I started seeing money left over after I had paid my expenses. I never took a salary. I only paid for my bare necessities that I had and reinvested everything into the business. The moment I started to make some good money was a few weeks before we went into COVID-19 lockdown. I'm only making a living right now doing personal training at some clients' homes. With all that said, my income over the past year, on average monthly, has been between -$0 and $600 a month. By the way, this is before taxes. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was very informative for you. Buy me a cappuccino on Patreon and we can continue chatting about this topic if you like. And if you would like to know how much money you need to make or save if you want to live comfortably in Rwanda, I can help you with that. Become a hero Patreon and book a 30 minutes call with me on Zoom, and we can continue talking about this topic or other topics that you would like. Check out my Patreon in the link below this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I would like to see you in the next video. Ramuche.